Get back to work. That was a weird night. Lots of dreams about Mrs. Affleck. Yeah, they were weird. Very self-centered and very strange. I sat and watched some of that Avatar yesterday. The part where Zoe Saldana saves the Marine from the dogs, And then they do the magic tree bit, and stuff, and all that weird magical thinking stuff that propaganda types do. Um, uh, of all the lights and the pure soul, and they do the lights, or people's imaginations have completely run wild, and they've allowed them to with propaganda, because with that kind of aggressive, wild thinking and crazy, wild thinking, it still gets them to try to justify their violent ends to means. They're fighting for victory, they're fighting for peace, they're fighting for victory. Which is wrong. It's wrong thinking. It's bad thinking. Reason why I don't see the future real well is because same way why Judah Krishnamurti couldn't talk to me. There was too many things going on, and it was too much shit, and you couldn't talk to him because you didn't know when, who, what, when, where, how. He knew who because there was too much evidence. There was the evidence of my life, and the documentation was overwhelming. Okay, more than they'd ever. There was more prophecy describing in detail about my existence than Jesus, than Muhammad, than any other person in the history of the world, that's seen as a religious figure. They had more known and detailed and widespread written documentation of prophecy that had a lot of, wow, this is, And then a lot of people, like with Gabe and Mike and Jerry and Linda joining the Pentecostal church and being brought in by religious groups, they self-fulfilled the prophecy. It's like, yeah, all prophecy is self-fulfilled. Okay. That's how you get prophecy, is self-fulfillment, and stuff. But it's written down and it's been used for propaganda, and not apparently with me. It comes to an end. They all knew that. This self-fulfillment and this manipulation and this propaganda and this genocide and this our team's going to win and this House of Dragon shit. It all stops here. This is the guy. The fuck for the buck stops here. Okay, he's the dude. And and if you would have known Abraham or Elijah or Ezekiel, or, well, with me mostly it's like David or Joe or David, or the ones that I'm closer molecular similitudes to, because there's got to be someone who's a lot like Isaac in spirit. There's got to be someone who's a lot like Patrick in spirit. It's not all just one guy. That whole joke that Josh Whedon doesn't believe in. It's just a Jesus joke on the Avengers. They're gods. So there's only one God, and he doesn't dress like that, right? That's a 1930s and 40s comic book joke about the comic book Jesus. Okay, that's all it is. They don't believe in Jesus Christ. They don't have faith in his faith. They don't share his faith. They don't share Muhammad's faith. They think it's a cult. They think it's a brand of propaganda. Okay. And just because corporations take beautiful people and their stories and turn them into Thor and Loki, and doesn't mean, Thor and Loki is just an it's mythology. Okay. There might have been people of those lines, of the Odins, of Thor, there might have been. Okay. And people that had similar personality traits to the characters portrayed in. There might have been in time, and then they exaggerate them like they do with Moses and Jesus and Exodus, And David and Goliath, they don't exaggerate. That's the thing. One of the things I like most about when I read that portion of the Gospels, okay, is there's no magic thinking in there at all. Really, when you look at David and Solomon, and it's there are portions in the Bible, okay, where they did the magic thinking thing with Moses, and they do the magical bullshit. The dream notebooks with Jonah. They do a lot of magical things, but with David and Solomon, there doesn't seem to be a lot of real magical thinking there. Okay, it's just these guys going through horrible things because people are a lot. They're in large, aggressive, violent groups, and they're a lot like the way they did the magical thinking stuff with Moses. They have other documentation. Okay, that eliminates the fire from the sky and the wall of water and all that stuff that they have, and a lot of it I think is rabbinic. Okay, I don't know why. Well, I can't tell you why. Well, yeah, I can because there's people that people hold information hostage and use the propaganda for genocide to keep people stupid. You know, like what's happening now with Netanyahu and Hamas and Hezbollah in the Middle East right now. Real religious people know better than what's being passed off as religion, but they're isolated and they're murdered and they're marginalized and they're made to be treated like they're crazy. Like what happened with that young man that I met in Sierra Vista, who was a descendant from Ali. Okay, so it's like so in spirit, the relatives of my family, and I mean, I've met lots of cousins and stuff. So it's you're like okay, so. And so it's kind of like meeting someone like Robbie or Richie or Ricky or Robbie Parsons, again, or someone like that. So you're sitting there and he's a handsome and Arabic fellow. And when we talked, he got scared because he's like, my grandfather was murdered for trying to teach the religion better. And I talked to my wife about it at home. She goes, yeah, no, I know who he is. But, she had talked to people online, and he was a bad person. He was a rebel rouser. He was, like me. Okay. He was bad, but like I'm this public enemy number one, this really bad person, this pervert, It's like the best person in the history of the U.S. military, and he's a really bad person, and we could run you over the parking lot of Best Buy and be if he never existed. So, you're dealing with just really bad people. And the reason why, Suzuki's so focused on, just survive, stop and eliminate abuse, and then recover is because, don't think about the future. Don't think about who you're going to be with. I was like, but what about my Patrick? What about my Emily? What about my Noah? I don't, Stephanie and Amy were terrible to me. Terrible. You can't, it's hard for a lot of you to imagine, just how bad my wives were to me because of the emotional reaction to what they were a part of. With you can only imagine what because the depths of it. Because I'm a private person. I don't tell you everything in depth. But of Michael Aquino and Antoine LaVey's group to manipulate and how bad the corporations that call themselves religions are, and how bad the Temple Set Illuminati and Scientology are. They're really bad people. Okay. They will invade people's homes that have lives and prophecy and books like they tried to do a Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti, he lived up to the Selassie. It was harder because Selassie was a leader and there was a lot of for him to live up to the hype. Okay. Because they did everything they could to undermine Selassie. Okay. Well, Krishnamurti, they didn't do everything they could to undermine him. And he kicked everybody's ass. Humbly and brilliantly. Okay. Selassie did, but they put in so much crap. Okay. But he did. When you look at it in the way that he helped Bob, they kicked a lot of ass too. They tried to be very humble, but they attacked Marley and Selassie way worse than they didn't attack Krishnamurti. He's the peaceful one, so there wasn't any talk about violent wars and stuff like that. So they just let him be. Hey, why don't you guys listen to him? We'll talk some more. I love you guys. Hang in there.